This presentation is regarding graduate student financial aid here at SLU with the Office of Student Financial Services. So in this presentation, we're going to be going over the basics of financial aid here at SLU, specifically for graduate student population, which hopefully is you. So in this, we're going to go over scholarships, part-time work, loans, all the different resources that you may need to help navigate financial aid here at SLU. We're going to start off with scholarships. So at the graduate level, scholarships are handled directly by departments. What I mean by that is that departments own their scholarships and own that funding, and it is up to their discretion of how to use that. When they have students who have scholarships that they are awarding, they will send a list over to our scholarship team, and our scholarship team will work to post those to students' accounts and bills. This can take typically about 7 to 10 business days from when we get that list to when it's actually posted. This processing time may vary, especially around our busier times of the year, which I'll get into later. But once you're in those periods, just expect that it may take a little longer because due to the volume of scholarships that we are needing to post and other financial aid such as loans. If you ever have any questions about scholarships at the graduate level, it is always best to first reach out to your department directly, and they can tell you about any opportunities that they may have. So the next section is going to be about part-time work, which can be one of two ways. I only have a slide for one of them, but the other way is pretty simple. So first would be graduate assistantship. So GA positions there is a wide variety of types. Departments may or may not have GA positions available. It doesn't necessarily have to be your department of study. Some departments may prefer their own students to be working their GA positions. However, others may not. For example, like housing and res life, they typically have GA positions available. It's just a matter of reaching out to departments around campus to see what they have offered. And you can also work with career services on locating those opportunities. So these different opportunities can have a wide variety of financial aid awards associated with them. For example, some may cover a portion of tuition or a certain number of credit hours each semester, and some may or may not include a health insurance scholarship as well. Here at SLU, health insurance is required for full-time students, whether you are covered outside on your own or if you need the university's health insurance. So it really depends on what is offered. Some provide larger scholarships, some smaller. Again, it just depends on that department and what they decide. So that's just a key point you can bring up when asking departments about their positions. The only other work that you can do here at SLU, so for domestic students, you may or may not qualify for federal work study. This may be something you are familiar with from undergraduate time here in the United States. If you qualify for federal work study, which is a need-based aid program from the government, you first need to complete the FAFSA and qualify for it. At that point, if you're a grad student and you want to take advantage of work study, and maybe you find a federal work study job here on campus, you would just need to request us to review and award federal work study to your account. At the grad level, we typically do not award work study ahead of time because it's less frequent that graduate students do federal work study, but it does happen and it is a possibility as long as you show unmet need from your FAFSA and through the packaging process. For federal work study positions, you will also work through career services and you can actually track down those opportunities through the Handshake app, which is on your MySLU portal. Any questions about each specific job just needs to be directed to that department or the hiring manager listed on the opportunity. And now we'll move on to loans. So of course, the first step, especially for domestic students or eligible non-citizens, is the FAFSA. This is something you are likely familiar with from your time at undergrad. If you had to borrow loans or receive certain grants, such as the Pell Grant, federal work study, this is how the government generates how much need that you show and the type of aid that is offered. It is very straightforward at the graduate level. There's not nearly as many aid opportunities. There's really only one or two, which is the unsubsidized loan and federal work study. Those are going to be the only options. Pell Grant is only offered at the undergraduate level. So if you receive that in undergrad, you are not going to receive it here in grad. So the standard unsubsidized loan offered from the FAFSA is $20,500 for the school year. You can see the interest rate listed here. Just keep in mind, this is for the 24-25 school year. And whenever you are viewing this, just make sure you reference studentaid.gov to find the most up-to-date interest rate for the different types of loans we're going to be covering here today. So you can expect to be offered $20,500 outside of a couple different scenarios. So if you have already used up your aggregate loan limit, that includes both your undergraduate and graduate loans from FAFSA, once you get to that limit, you can't borrow any further from this specific type of loan. So you can see the aggregate limit for the standard student is $138,500. Again, that is throughout the time of undergraduate and graduate studies for this loan. So with that, the only other scenario where you may not get this full amount offered to you is if the cost of attendance is smaller than $20,500. We'll get into cost of attendance here later, but essentially we can't award more financial aid than the cost of attendance per federal regulations. So once you do the FAFSA, basically how that works is it can take anywhere from 5 to 7 days for it to be received by SLU. It processes on the Department of Education side, and then they send those over in batches to us. Here at SLU, we load FAFSAs once a week. So because we're loading so many at a time, we like to just stick to that one time a week so that we can get a large batch at each week, and then we'll gather the last week's that next week. So once we receive that loan or that FAFSA, we will package your federal aid. We'll package that unsubsidized loan. Once we do that, we do send out a financial aid award letter before each school year, or before whenever you are starting. Say you start in the spring, you'll get one before the spring. And that will detail a lot of information. It will detail the cost of attendance. And again, we'll see that in a little bit. And also any aid that you're offered, whether it's a departmental scholarship that we've already gotten from the department, or your unsubsidized loan, or even federal work study if it's on there. So once you get that, you know your loan is ready to go for action on your part. So where you're going to navigate is Banner Self-Service. This is something you may be familiar with already. It is really a home base for a lot of stuff for students here at SLU, where you can go and see registration stuff, unofficial transcript you can see on here. It's also where you update your personal information. And you can see at the very bottom, you have your financial aid dashboard. This is going to be where you go to actually accept, decline, or modify your loan. So within that financial aid dashboard, it's going to look a little like this. Of course, this one is blank, but you just want to make sure first that your aid year is the one that you were actually wanting to look at, that aid offer. So just make sure that matches that. And then you're going to go over to the offer tab here. So of course, there's nothing in here right now, but this will detail exactly what is on your financial aid award letter, the cost of attendance, and all the way at the bottom, you will see the option to make a decision on the loan that is offered. So your choices are either to accept, which will accept the full amount, decline, or modify. Modify meaning you can essentially adjust the amount that you're accepting. So if you don't want to do the full award, you can do modify and tell us the exact amount that you were wanting. So when you accept a loan here, let's say it's in the fall, loans will always automatically split 50-50 between the fall and the spring semester. That's just how the system does it. It doesn't mean that's how it has to be. So if you want to reallocate your loan a different way, say maybe you're thinking you need a little more in the fall, and a little less in the spring, all you would need to do is email us from your SLU email and put that request in. We just need the request in writing so that we have record of it, and especially for auditing purposes. And yeah, so that's all you need to do to actually accept your loan on our end. And then we will move on to a couple requirements from the federal end of what needs to happen in order to actually receive that loan. Before we do that, there are a couple other useful pieces in here. You can see these tabs are going to have like your financial aid history. So you can see throughout your time at SLU, different resources we may provide. And then like satisfactory academic progress is a big one. So being able to monitor your eligibility for federal aid based off GPA, which is always a 2.0, or course completion percentage. So basically the percentage of credits that you earn over the amount that you've attempted. So that benchmark is 67% in order to be eligible for federal aid. If you fall below one of those, you will often need to appeal your federal aid each semester until you do meet those requirements. There is a form that our office will provide at that point, especially via email, once we let you know kind of where you sit according to those benchmarks. So all you would need to do is appeal, and we have a team that would go through a review, look at the case that you are making, and make a decision on if we are able to award you federal aid. It is very strict guidelines that we have to follow. It's not really anything that we decide. We just have to follow the guidelines provided by the government. All right, so let's say you accept your loan in Banner Self-Service. You're all good on SLU's end of things. Now, the only two things you need to do is on the federal side. So on the same website as the FAFSA, and we'll kind of see this in a future page of where you can locate these, you need to complete the Master Promissory Note, or MPN, and Loan Entrance Counseling. So what this essentially is, you can see right here, the Master Promissory Note is the loan agreement you're signing on to. This can take around 5 minutes, not too long, for you to sign on to the loan. The last thing is the Loan Entrance Counseling, which is just as it sounds. It is a lesson to make sure students are aware of how the loan works throughout the whole entire period of the loan. So just some basic education for students before they actually go through with receiving a loan. Once you do those, it typically can take 2 to 3 days to process on the government's end and link onto our system. At that point, if you've already accepted your loan, at that point, we can disperse your loan. The earliest we can disperse loans is 10 days before the start of class. So you may have everything done ahead of time, but just be aware, the earliest we can disperse is that 10-day mark before the first day of class. All right, and we'll move on to the other loan options. So of course, you may be in a program where $20,500 in the unsubsidized loan isn't going to cover everything and you need additional funding. You have two options for additional loans at the graduate level. So the first one is the Graduate Plus loan, which is a federal loan. It's just the next level up. Typically it has a higher interest rate, as you can see here for 24-25 at 9.08%. And again, yeah, on the next page, we'll see exactly where you can find this on studentaid.gov. With this, you need to make sure you have a couple things on the application. So first would be the loan period. So loan period is essentially the period that you are wanting the loan to cover. So you always want it to match the period of enrollment you are attempting to cover. So for example, the standard one, you can do fall and spring together for the year, which is, and it usually only asks for the month and the year. So you could do August 2024 to May 2025. That'd be an example for this school year. That really once we get that loan application, that tells our loan team exactly what period you're wanting it to apply to so that we can have that set up correctly. Now, you don't just have to do fall and spring together. You can do each individually. Again, just that loan period needs to match those dates. So for the fall, you could do August of that year to December. For the spring, January to May are the standard ones we give. You also will need to do if you're needing a plus loan for the summer. It has to be its own application. On that one, the loan period will be May of that year to August, kind of matching that the summer. It's kind of what you're going for. So once you have that, then you have the amount that you are going to request. So you can put in a specific dollar amount, or you can request max. You can indicate max, and I'll break that down here in a couple slides of what exactly that means. Basically, we just max out your loan as much as we are legally allowed to, and it'll make more sense here in a couple slides. The only other option from a plus loan and a private loan, or from a plus loan, is a private loan. So really the determining factor with these is the interest rate that you can get on a private loan. So if you can get a better interest rate on a private loan, typically we will suggest you take that route because of course we want less interest to accrue over time, save you money in the long run. Now, with these loans, whether you're approved or denied, because of course they do a credit check. Now the federal plus loan is a less strict credit check than a private loan lender who's typically going to be more strict. So with these, if you are denied a private loan, especially on your own, you could attempt to get a co-signer to sign on to that loan with you. And then on the federal side of things, if you're denied a plus loan, you can pursue an endorser, and they would provide instructions on how to do that in the denial notification that you get. These are typically a quick turnaround process with these, whether you know you're approved or not. For example, the plus loan, I find that it's typically within 30 minutes, if not an hour, of when you'll find out if you're approved or not after submitting. And they'll send you an email with that decision. Private loans, I would say typically within a day or so, but sometimes can be within an hour as well. It really just depends on the private loan lender. You can see this private loan website I'm providing. We'll take a look at that here in a little, in a few slides. All right, so this is where you can find the plus loan application on studentaid.gov. So you're going to go under the loans and grants tab, and you'll see that second option there. You'll see plus loans, grad plus, and parent plus. And it's pretty easy to kind of go through and apply for. You can also see directly under that is the master promissory note and loan entrance counseling, all next to each other, make it nice and easy for you. If you get a plus loan, you also need to complete another master promissory note and loan entrance counseling. Since it's a different type of loan, it has those requirements for itself as well. So even if you've done one for the unsubsidized loan, you need to do them again and indicate it is for a plus loan, so that we can process that for you. And then actually, I'll come back to this slide. So this is the private loan website that I mentioned earlier. This is really a surface level tool to help students get started on their search for a private loan lender. This is by no means an exhaustive list of the lenders. There are so many out there, whether it's a bank back home that you are comfortable with applying for, think you can get a better interest rate, or just another private lender that's maybe not on here. So you can absolutely do your own research that way and find the best option for you. But these are just the lenders we see most frequently from students here at SLU. So on this website, there are some key functions that you can use. So there's like the filter where you can filter, for example, loans that allow you to go less than half time, or loans that don't require satisfactory academic progress. Some private loan lenders have their own GPA requirements, some don't. Some are pretty flexible there. So if you really want to see all the details about each lender specifically, please just go directly to their website and look at their resources. That's going to be the best place for those. Again, this is just a surface level tool to help you initiate your search. Another thing you can do on here, say you get multiple loans offered but different interest rate. On this loan estimator, you can put those different interest rates in and actually see how those loans would look over time to see what the best decision is for you specifically. Finally, if you were to click into view on any of these, you would then see a little double box kind of in the top right by them where you can add them to a compare function. You can compare up to 4 different lenders at a time, and it gives a lovely drop down where you can compare side by side all of these different things, all the details about these loans, whether they are allow less than half time, minimum amounts, cosigner, release, all sorts of stuff. Really just basic level stuff. But again, just go to their website specifically if you are interested in the specific lender to find more information. All right. So plus loan, where you can indicate max. And this is also going to work for private loans, and I'll get into that here in a second. So you can see here, this is our end of banner here at SLU, so what it looks like for us for your cost of attendance budget. So the cost of attendance budget is essentially where we budget any expenses that it's going to take for you to attend SLU. You can see, of course, tuition is on here. This is obviously going to vary based on the program you're in, how many classes, if it's charged per credit hour, if it's flat rate, it should be reflected here. Now, with graduate students, we typically budget everyone pretty much the same at the start. So you may get your financial aid award letter, and you may see like, okay, my tuition, that isn't accurate. All you need to do is just let us know, especially once you're billed. If we can update that, and all we need to see is that it's charged, we see what's charged, and we add it on here to make it as accurate as possible. You will also notice that this includes living expenses, books and supplies, transportation, and other miscellaneous fees or costs that we anticipate some students occur. So yeah, so the off-campus living expenses, for example, this is something we take a poll every 4 years or so to really see what that expense is looking like for the average student here in St. Louis. Of course, you may be living elsewhere, attending your program remotely, but these are the numbers that we have to work with. We cannot alter the living expenses portion of this because it is that average. Unfortunately, we have to take that average and can't really accommodate if you are choosing a much more expensive housing option. This is what it is set up, for example, for this school year. This will change every once in a while. Again, yeah, every 4 years we assess that for students. And yeah, so essentially with this cost of attendance budget, this really puts the maximum amount of financial aid that you can receive. By law, we cannot give you more financial aid than this budget. So for example, this student, their budget for the year was $43,300. That means they can only receive that much in financial aid, whether it's loans, scholarships, grants, anything like that. So you can see this student right here borrowed the unsubsidized loan for $20,500, and it looks like they also got a departmental scholarship for $3,000. So you can see that they do still have room left in that cost of attendance budget. Now, let's say they either request a max plus loan, or let's say they request a $30,000 private loan. See how that kind of works. So in the first case, so the plus loan, if it's maxed out, we'll do the simple math to figure out how much room is left in that budget, and that is the maximum amount that we are allowed by law to process for the rest of that year. So for example, you may request a $30,000 private loan or a $30,000 plus loan if you don't indicate max. You can be approved for those all day by the lenders. They're not the ones tied down by law to how much we can certify. That falls on us. So if you ever request more, but you're only certified a certain amount of that, this is 100% going to be the reason for that, is we got you up to that maximum amount that we could and process that. So if it was a $30,000 private loan, you're still only getting $19,800 in this case. All right, and yeah, and then back to ELM Select, there is also options for international students on here. So of course, not everyone's a domestic student at SLU and still need loan funding for graduate programs. So if you're an international student on this website, you're able to select international for your program, and it will limit those options down to those that we see international students most frequently using. It's going to be like Empower financing, Prodigy financing, and there are a few US-based lenders that do allow international student borrowing. Now, as an international student, you may want to apply to other US lenders, but most of them typically require a US-based cosigner on them. So just make sure you're taking a look at those specific lenders if you're applying to them to see what those requirements are. All right, and we're going to shift away from the types of financial aid and into some key tools and apps that we use here in student financial services. So the big one is Payment Suite. So in your MySLU portal, if you're not already familiar with it, it's going to be the page that has a ton of different applications, most of which you won't use, but this is one of them and that you should absolutely use throughout your time at SLU. So this is the best location to look at billing. Some students tend to want to use Banner Self-Service to also see that like up-to-date financial aid stuff, and that's just not the case. It's not always up-to-date, but Payment Suite is. You will always see the most up-to-date information. When we add stuff, when we take it off, it shows everything. So always use Payment Suite when it comes to billing. Now let's take a look at what it looks like within there. So this is the main page as you get into the Payment Suite, and you can kind of see the layout here. So what I always suggest students do is to see your most up-to-date bill, you're going to go to this View Activity button here in the middle of the screen. That's going to show a breakdown, chronological order of everything that happens on your bill. Again, whether anything's taken off or added on, you can see it all. So you can see what exactly is going on with your account. And then if you call in, we can kind of go along with that with you to explain whatever your question is. Another key function on here is authorized users. You'll see it in the My Profile setup over here, but it's also going to be under this My Profile drop down here along the top. What that means, so you may have family members or friends or anyone who's going to be calling in on your behalf to ask questions about your account. By law, we can't share any information with anyone who's not authorized by the student. It's your information. We're only going to give it to whoever you give permission to see it. So, for example, like especially in like undergrad, parents call in a lot of times for their students, and we need to see that they're authorized in order to speak with them about details. We can discuss general topics with people who are not authorized, but we will never, ever share detailed information on your account with them. All you really need to do within that setup is you need to enter their email address, and it will send them an email to set up their own account, which will look 99% the same here. The only thing they won't have is the refund options at the top. But yes, this is something I definitely suggest if you have someone calling on your behalf to kind of help you navigate the financial side of attending SLU. Among the other options up here is payment plans, which we'll discuss here in the next slide. And then refunds is a big one. So with refunds, this is where you can set up an electronic refund account for direct deposit. So in many cases, students are not just borrowing loans to cover their tuition and their bill, but they may need extra funding for living expenses. Maybe you are not working while you're in this graduate program, and you need that funding to help you be able to pay rent, food, books and supplies, and all the things like that. How it works in the standard way is the loan will pay to the bill. It'll take care of everything first, and then it will generate a refund. If you don't have an electronic refund method set up, it will just be sent as a check in the mail, which of course can take longer and isn't always as reliable. I always suggest students set up this electronic refund account. It's going to have you do two-factor authentication first. So whether that's with your email or your phone number, you'll get that set up, and then you can click on the refund tab again, and it'll allow you to create an account where you're just going to put in your bank account information to have that set up. So that in the event that a refund generates, it'll generate, and then towards the end of the day, it'll convert to an electronic refund. From that point, it can take 2 to 3 business days to get to your bank account. This is definitely the smoothest way to go about refunds, not having to worry about stuff going through the mail, getting lost in the mail, etc. So I highly suggest setting up an electronic refund method. All right, so now on to payment plans. And this is something that if you are looking at this in future years, because this is the 24-25 school year, these may change in future years. So I'm going to show you these now. However, just make sure you either go to Payment Suite yourself to see what's offered in the specific term you are enrolled in, or call our office to kind of go through those options. But for now, these are the two options for payment plans. They're both 5-month payment plans that need to be set up at the beginning of each semester. We don't do payment plans for the entire year because we bill by semester. So you can see the two different plans here. There's the enrollment fee plan and then the plan with interest. The key difference between these is the enrollment fee plan has the $75 fee upfront added to your bill and then splits everything else between the rest of the 5 months. There will be no interest charges on this one, whereas the other one has no enrollment fee, but it does have a 1% interest fee each month. It's always 1% of the balance on the day that we pull the bill, which is typically around the 10th of each month. But if the 10th is on a weekend, it's just that next business day. So with these, how we suggest students go about it. Typically, students who have a balance in a semester over $5,000, we suggest the enrollment fee plan. Those with less than $5,000, we suggest the interest. Reasoning for that, if you are in the interest plan and you had a balance over $5,000, typically the interest is going to add up to more than $75. So that is why it's better just to set up the enrollment fee so you're not paying more than you need to. And if you have a balance less than $5,000, that interest is typically going to be less than $75. These plans will change as the semester goes on. There is a point where the enrollment fee plan is taken off. It depends on the semester. And also the length of the plan adjusts because these plans are set up to be paid off by the end of the semester. So if you're setting it up a couple months in, it may only be a 3-month plan. And eventually, for example, it may only be a 2-month plan if you're just paying the last 2 months of the semester. So I always suggest set this up as soon as you get your bill so that it breaks it up into those 5 equal monthly payments. And you have it set up for the whole semester. And again, just want to reiterate, this is something that needs to be set up each semester. A lot of students, or not a lot, some students tend to forget or parents don't realize that they need to set it up each time, and they're confused when we get to the middle of the spring semester and they're like, well, I thought this was pulling from my accounts, but it actually wasn't. Why'd that happen? It's because they did not set it up in time. Also, if you are in any of these plans and you miss payments in consecutive months, you will be administratively removed from it, especially the enrollment fee plan. So they will unenroll you from that plan. That $75 will stay on, but then you will start accruing those interest charges each month. So if you set these up, make sure you are following them. If you're having issues, please reach out to a financial aid counselor to help you navigate your options. All right, and into some general stuff here at the end. So just a heads up, so we never have those late fees or interest charges in August or January. There is still a ton of processing going on at the beginning of each semester. We know loans are coming in, people are paying by check via mail, or a scholarship check is coming in that we're just waiting on. Just know that we're aware of that. We're not going to penalize students for stuff that is not within their control. And we will always honor the dates on loan applications, checks, when it comes to that kind of stuff. So in the event, let's say in September, you still don't have your loan processed or a check still hasn't come in and you get a late fee, but then eventually that stuff comes in and it covers everything, we will automatically go and waive the late fee associated with that. So July through August are definitely our busiest months, and I'll also include January on there as well for the beginning of the spring semester. So those times are definitely much slower with processing and response time. We do kind of have all hands on deck during those months to speed it up as quickly as possible. But of course, when you have thousands and thousands of students requesting financial aid, there's going to be a delay. So just be aware of that, get ahead of it, and just keep in contact with us to make sure there's nothing that is needed from your end, so that once we do get your financial aid processed, everything will be good to go and a smooth experience for you all. The best way to get the quickest answer, whether during the busiest times or just even any other time of the year, is to call our main line, which I do have the number on the next slide for you all. Yeah, don't hesitate to call. We are here to help. And yeah, we don't want you to wait and just sit and get frustrated when it could have been resolved quicker. Especially if you're emailing through our busy months, it will be a significantly longer response time, just due to the sheer volume of requests and emails that we get. So I would always suggest just call first. It is, unless it's not urgent and you're not worried about it, you can email. But if you're a little stressed out and we just want to make sure everything's good to go, just give us a call and we'll be able to take a look at it right then. Finally, one of the big things we get questions on is health insurance. So like I mentioned earlier, health insurance at SLU is required for full-time students. So at the beginning of every year, every full-time student is given a health insurance charge on their account. All that you need to do at that point is waive it if you have outside health insurance or enroll in it. And we are not the ones who control these charges. So your best bet is to reach out to the health insurance office here on campus. If you go to slu.edu and you search health insurance, it'll take you, the first search option will take you to their page, which will have details and instructions on how to waive or enroll in a health insurance plan. Just know that, for example, if you start in the fall, it'll be on your fall bill. If you waive it in the fall, it won't be on your spring. They do it a year at a time. So, and then if you start in the spring, it will be put on your spring bill. Just know that you have to waive that. There is a certain point in the semester that they do take waivers. So just take a look at their website to see what those dates are, so you know when you need to have it done by. I would always say do it as soon as possible, just to give some leeway in case there's anything that goes wrong or slow in the process, and reach out to the health insurance office if you have any questions. All right, and here's our contact information for our office. So we have our phone number and email right there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask us. We are here to help. We're glad to help make this as smooth of a process as possible for you all. We know financing your education can be stressful, but that's what we're here for, to give you those best options, help you navigate any confusion, because it does get very confusing with federal financial aid. So another thing is this virtual office. This is not always open. Typically, we may open it during the busiest times. It really just depends on our traffic and what we're able to do. So that is there right now, but I'm just letting you know that that may not be open when you try to look for it. So, and if you have questions about that, if we are offering that virtual office, just give us a call and we will keep you updated on that. But yeah, eventually you will be able to set up appointments with a financial aid counselor. If you ever need an in-person or a virtual appointment, you will be able to get details about that also by calling us or emailing our SFS email. And yeah, that is it. So I hope you all have a great start to your time at SLU. It is a great place and great people. So I hope you really enjoy your time here, whether you are here in person or remote.